If you've been keeping up with the Genshin community recently, it is evident that most people are quite dissatisfied with Natlan as a whole, for many different reasons. And now, with the final act coming to a close, the main Natlan storyline is practically over, and most of us are able to judge how much we loved or hated that story compared to other chapters. Today, I'm gonna talk specifically about Natlan's finale and share my subjective opinion on what makes Act 5 so good and what makes it so disappointing. Let's get right into it. The beginning of Act 5 did feel like it was dragging a bit, especially since we long have waited for our ancient name to be forged. We've been left on a cliffhanger with it twice, but we still had to wait quite a bit for it. We got to spend some time with the cast, relax a bit, reminisce about our journey in Natlan so far. I was kinda hoping we'd get a similar moment to the one we had in Fontaine, Act 5, where the Traveler and Paimon were just strolling around the city and having the chance to talk to Sidine and Charlotte about life, ending with the two companions looking to the horizon and having a small heart-to-heart. This sequence was one of the most memorable moments in Fontaine for me. It really resonated with me at the time, and I still enjoyed it very much. In Natlan, we got to get back with Kachina again and remind ourselves of how we first stepped into Natlan, which is a welcome addition for the emotional impact. Another plotline we got to experience was us learning about the ghosts around Natlan. The concept of them being unable to return to the Night Kingdom, which is important to understand for the finale. Although I kinda wish they focused on this more during previous acts, so it's not all stuffed in one act, but oh well. After a couple of hours of nothing really happening, we got to have our ancient name at last. With it, we went to the stadium to go fight the final war with Mauika in the Night Kingdom, in order to purify it completely. We are met with a ton of people cheering us on with their faith, after which we head to the Night Kingdom, where the peak finally begins. Up until this point, the quest felt alright. I enjoyed it, but ultimately they focused too much on telling a lot before the battle, and didn't spend enough time for the battle itself, which we're gonna talk about shortly. When we arrive to the Night Kingdom, the projections of some people are still surrounding us, waiting to see us off with their wishes. And this is the moment when I realized. This is where Natlan's strong side of writing stands. In the final act of the main story, we saw not just what we had achieved in the main story, but also the consequences of playing the side stories like tribal quests and even world quests up to Ochka Natlan. Everything we had done in Natlan up until this point is represented here and will have an emotional impact on the player. We first get to talk to the chiefs of every tribe, and if we had finished their tribal quests, the payoff is at its peak with this quest. All the consequences are following us, showing how much we have already done for the nation, and that nation is supporting us in return. Not only does this add to the hype, but also makes us feel that what we had done actually has consequences. This is the best approach they took out of all the nations. Even as we move forward fighting the Abyss on our way, everyone we have met who has lost their lives are out there, ready to help us in the time of need. Even the World Quest characters, it's the most impactful I feel like I have ever been for a nation. Love that approach, 10 out of 10. When it comes to the battle within the Night Kingdom, they introduced us to storytelling from two different sides at the same time. Almost like they did in one of the world quests, where we had two different perspectives with ourselves and our Sorin companion. Unfortunately, they only did the switch once, and only for a brief period of time and one dialogue sequence. I really wish that we got to have more interesting gameplay with switching perspectives on our way to Gasoithoth, so it felt a bit rushed to me. When we got to the main boss, Gasoithoth, that mimicked the Pyro Dragon Sovereign, Xiuquatl, or I'm sorry if I butchered the name, I don't know the pronunciation, and who was speaking with the voices of all the previous Pyro Archons, which wasn't creepy at all, we had an awesome, epic, and visually stunning battle. But I have a lot to say about it, so buckle up. First off, the story fight ended up being only triumphant. And don't even get me started on the gameplay battle of the weekly boss. Bro's even easier in that regard than Dvalin. During the fight, we didn't get to have any ups and downs, even though we've had foreshadowing of Traveler dying and being resurrected by Mawika thanks to our very own ancient name that we've waited so long for. But what we ultimately got was us getting hit by a claw and immediately switching perspectives to Mawika in her realm. And the next time we see ourselves is when we kneel in front of the sacred flame. There was practically no indication of us dying, and ultimately we found out that we weren't even resurrected. So that plot device disappointed a little. What they did right this time, though, is something I was lacking in Sumeru finale and Shokin Okami boss fight. The only thing that didn't feel as good there is the camaraderie we share with the main cast. The Krumuru got to have this amazing plan that went out without a hitch, but then they dropped the ball the moment we had to fight the god. Like, it would have been so much more impactful if every character capable of fighting got to play their role in fighting the false god. And not just dealing damage to him, but, I don't know, like slowly tearing him limb from limb. Something like Tainari shooting one of his arms off, or Dia damaging its leg, and so on. That would make the fight feel so much more engaging, and the power of friendship shine brighter. And even though the Natlan cast didn't get to participate in the fight personally, they established the connection between us, having us feel like they were by our side, especially with their personal thoughts of us that they got to preserve in our ancient name. Not to mention the chanting of the Ode of Resurrection the people on the service were supporting us with. Which is an interesting detail, because we know that the power of the gods depends strongly on their people's faith in them. The feeling that was lacking before was properly realized in Natlan, which I'm very happy about. But once again, the fight didn't have any setbacks at all. It was just pure hype and dopamine rush, no emotional rollercoasters. I was personally expecting a longer battle, with Capitano being involved as well, and him popping off, sacrificing himself and saving Mawika in the process, going out like an absolute badass, but we'll get to that part at the end. We easily destroyed the Abyss and purified the Night Kingdom, returning triumphant to the surface, and reuniting with Paimon, who's been worried sick for us back there. With everything coming to an end, we got to have the most festive celebration out of any nation, because all the nation was celebrating the victory of the heroes. I really love how they portrayed the celebration ceremony. It felt truly rewarding. And we got to see the silly dance that I didn't know we needed. And now, the most juicy part. I've been holding out for long enough. We get to the Mawika sacrifice, with Renova overwatching the skies in her biblically accurate depiction. Before she gets to actually go through with it, Capitano comes to the scene and gets to say his piece. He wishes for Mawika to live and rule over Natlan, given how much he respects her for who she is and everything she has done. And he finally gets a chance to confront Renova, the ruler of death, the one who forced the curse of immortality onto him and his people. Turns out, Thrain, Capitano's real name, was collecting souls of the dead that could not rest in peace, being rejected by the Night Kingdom, inside his modified heart. He confronted Renova by providing her with a choice. Either she makes an exception of her rules and have Thrain die instead of Mawika, or use her curse of immortality to take Mawika's place, fuse himself with the Lord of the Night, sharing his immortality with her, and become the master of Natlan's ley lines, changing the laws Natlan was under and protecting it from further abyssal invasions, while also allowing all the souls in his body to enter the Night Kingdom at last. Which is exactly what he had done. While still being immortal, his body stays, breathing yet unmoving, having his consciousness fused with the Lord of the Night. Meaning there is still a chance for him to regain consciousness one day, leaving a possibility of him returning and standing up from his throne. That storyline and concept are incredible. Amazing, I love them. However, that scene is the main source of my personal disappointment of this quest. Il Capitano, the very first of the Fatui Harbingers, the one most of us were waiting for with anticipation. having big hopes for his character and storyline. He was a big part of the Natlan Archon questline, leaving a mystery behind himself every time he appeared, Hoyo teasing us with his intentions, motivations, and goals. We went through the whole chapter with him being present, us being intrigued by him, anticipating a big payoff in the end, and what we got was a rushed finale with a mediocre and bleak 2D animated cutscene. Now, let me elaborate. I cannot express with words the level of my disappointment with this portrayal. From the beginning of Natlan, I was always of the opinion that it would be better if Capitano didn't become playable, got to sacrifice himself for Mauika and Natlan as a whole, but got to go out in the most badass way and in the blaze of glory. I was fine with him dying, so long as they gave his death the proper treatment the first Fatui Harbinger deserves, leaving me with a lasting memory of his character that would stick with me for many years to come. Because I cherish that more than having a cool character to play. However, I feel utterly robbed with what we ultimately got. They didn't even bother giving him a gorgeous walk towards the throne, him sitting down on it, surrounding himself with ice accompanied by beautiful lighting, intimidating red light of Renova, gentle blue light of the souls. What I had imagined was what I would call peak cinema. It could have been the greatest cinematography in Genshin, by simply just having a properly rendered 3D cutscene of his walk to the throne. I'm sure the multi-billion-dollar company could easily have made a short 4th 3D cutscene instead of the 3 we got. And to clarify, I understand that the flashback sequence was necessary to be portrayed in 2D, because of all the intricacies and details they needed to express. But they could have switched the animation to 3D when we got to the present moment. Because they've done it before, just the other way around in Sino's second story quest. They just decided to make a simple animation that didn't feel as impactful as it should have been as it could have been. The OST barely even had any choir in it, symbolizing all the souls inside Thrain. It just lost all its magic just like that. It feels like a slap in the face for everyone who's been hyped for Capitano, building his character so well, just to poorly animate his death because he wasn't a part of the boss fight. So he didn't deserve a fully rendered cutscene with great atmosphere and lighting. It was an amazing story, with absolutely shitty presentation. I will be salty about how they treated his character, until they redeem themselves by giving us a badass awakening in the future, just like the Lich King. That's it. You've crossed the line, Genshin. That's it. But you know what? Maybe it's just my fault for having high expectations for one of the most hyped up characters in the story. Because we all should just not expect anything and simply enjoy what we got to have, right? If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around. This is the first time I'm doing something of the sort, and it's purely out of passion. Because the Capitano situation really upset me, and I just not just wanted to vent about this, I wanted to rant about it. I wanted to scream it into the distance, and if anyone is going to hear that, I'm sorry. But still, I hope you enjoyed it. And in case you did, I have my own Genshin playthrough, so if you'd like to, you can check it out. And if you like me and my vibe, you can stick around and have some fun. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you'll have a great day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!